Hello, welcome to a video on the coding train where I am going to show you all of the things that I use in various videos. All of them. This might actually end up being kind of long. At the end, I'm going to be getting into the weeds of some of the nitty-gritty details. But first, let me make a list. So first of all, let me be clear about something. Number one, there's no paid endorsements here of certain things that I'm using, and I'm picking things in many ways arbitrarily, and I am not in any way whatsoever telling you to use the things that I'm using. I'm just showing you the things that I'm using. And actually, learning to use one thing is not as valuable as trying out a lot of different things. And by things, I mean text editors and console applications and different node packages and different programming languages. But this would hopefully be helpful to you if you're going along and following various videos. This is going to have all the pieces of how things are set up and configured. So a couple things. I often use a kind of all-in-one package. So what I mean is it's a thing that it's either a URL that I could go to that I can run code in, or it's an application that I can download and run. So two things that I use are processing. This is a Java-based platform for creative coding. It's been around since 2001. I talk about the history and various aspects of it in quite a few videos. And currently, as of the time of this recording, it is on version 3.4, which is the version I'm using. There are a bunch of libraries and things that I actually would really like to make a video that just does a sort of processing overview, which I'm thinking about. Okay, the other thing that I'm using most recently is the P5.js web editor. What this is, and there are many wonderful online web editors, let me name a few: Open Processing, Glitch, CodePen, and many more. This is one that I'm using because it is designed for beginners. It's a project that I have tried to help with. By no means am I the creator of this. This was created by Cassie Terakajian. And I'll link to the videos about the P5.js web editor that she made and the Processing Foundation. So this is a place where you can write code in JavaScript. And if you look behind the scenes, you can also edit the HTML and the CSS of a web page, upload files, media files, etc. So these are my all-in-one packages. So if I want to just quickly sketch out an idea and I want to use a downloadable editor like processing, I do that. If I want to sketch out an idea and do it in the browser and share a link with it and teach with it, I'm using this. Okay. So I'm not really going to show you these. I'll just link to where you can download and use them, and separate videos cover how to program in processing, how to program in P5 with the web editor. What I'm going to cover more specifically in this video is my local development environment for doing JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. So that really, by the way, it includes a few things. So what do I need? I need a text editor. So some sort of text editor. And again, there are all sorts of text editors. Try them. Use your favorite. Use what makes you happy. I am this year learning to use Visual Studio Code, which is, I think it's open source, but it's a code editor created by Microsoft. Most of my previous videos have either used Sublime or Atom. I need some sort of console application or terminal application. I'm going to call that console access. On a Mac, Macs come with the terminal application. On a PC, you might be using Command or Git Bash or something, or some other ones that people have told me about. Unfortunately or fortunately, I'm using a Mac, and I'm starting to use an application called iTerm, which has a few extra features. So here I'm really talking about an application that gives you console access. But also what you need is, you need a shell. And this is not something that might be obvious to you, because mostly you're going to just be using whatever default shell is part of your computer's installation. And that's what I have always been using in all my previous videos up until this year. And the default shell on a Mac is usually something called Bash. And I'm going to try using something called ZSH, which I have to install separately, but there's a wonderful tool that I discovered called ZSH that I will show you. So this is a way that I can run Git commands. I can start up local servers. I can manipulate files, do all the kinds of things I might want to do through shell access. I could otherwise do with a GUI or other application, but it helps my workflow. It makes me more efficient, and I actually enjoy working in that environment. It's the kind of thing that might look a little bit intimidating, but once you get used to it, it can be useful for your workflow. Okay, so text editor, console access. I didn't actually make this list in advance, so I'm trying to think of what am I missing here. I probably discover it as I go. Well, let's talk about this. So two other things. I need Node. So I need to install Node. Node I use for different examples that use server-side programming. If I need to start up a server that saves data to a JSON file or communicates with an API that I need to authenticate with. But mostly I'm saying this because also Node, I can install what are known as global, well, I can install packages globally that are utilities that I can run via the shell. And so two that I tend to use are P5 Manager, which is one that will sort of generate a template of like index.html and like files for creating a P5 sketch. Like all the files that the web editor kind of uses, you can generate those locally with P5 Manager. You can just download them. You can just make them by saying new file, but this is useful. And then another one is HTTP server. Another one is live server. And once again, the point of me showing this to you is not to say use these three. Find your own. See what your friends are using. You just need to know how, you need to have a sense of what all these pieces are and how to play around with them. You might not like ZSH. Use a different one. I don't have any agenda. I'm not telling you to use these. Have I said that enough times? All right, what else? I also, to be honest with you, I have been doing some more things. I haven't really been writing Python code, but recently and in some upcoming video tutorials, I've been running Python scripts to do something like train a machine learning model that I'm going to use elsewhere in my JavaScript code. So the thing that I have recently learned, which I love, is something called virtual env for setting up a Python environment. Maybe this needs to go in a separate video. I don't know if I really, this might actually turn into I think this probably should turn into multi-parts. So we'll sort of figure that out as I go. But these are all the pieces. Let me pause for a second and see if anyone who's watching this live in the chat has anything that I missed or any questions so far about this map of stuff. I think I've got anything. There are a few good comments that I think are useful to mention. Number one is by text editor, I also kind of mean IDE, which is stands for Integrated Development Environment, meaning it's a whole piece of software that has all these features for running code and doing stuff with code for developing things. I like to think of it as a text editor because it's kind of what I use it for. I just edit text and save, but it has so many features. There's actually console access within Visual Studio Code itself, which maybe I'll show you, and there are so many plugins, so I should make a note of what plugins do I use. One that I use is called Beautify, so that it makes everything nicely indented. So I'll try to show you how to install that. I don't know if they're called plugins in Visual Studio Code. We'll look at that. And then also with something like iTerm has a lot of features, and then ZSH has a lot of features. You can configure them and template them. I'm not going to get too far down that, but I just use the sort of default settings of OhmyZSH because it has some nice colors that I like and it shows things that are useful to me. But I look forward to hearing from your suggestions about how to configure that stuff even more. All right, so I'm going to go through all of this. Let's start in this video with, actually, you know what? This was my introduction to my workflow. Multi-part series. In the next video, I'm going to go through Visual Studio Code. Is that the right order to do this in? Why not? Yes. Okay.